Good day. We are the Group Aero Makers, BCS students of De La Salle University, Dasmariñas. Before we start, we would like to introduce ourselves.
Hello, sir. I'm Hendrix Bialbay.
I am Joseph II Deslina.
I'm Alex Kenneth Malatag.
I am Francis Vincent Pangaliban.
And I'm Janicole San Jose.
To formally start the interview, we would like to introduce you, Mr. Norman Eliba. Good day, sir. We are pleased to meet you. Thank you for allowing us to interview and taking the time to meet with us today. Can you please give us a brief introduction of yourself?
Okay. So my name is Norman, as you already know. So I'm a software engineer, and I've been doing programming for about 20 years now. Exactly, actually, I started in 2002. Usually, the work that I do is related to Microsoft products. So usually C Sharp, VB.NET, SQL Server. But also in other projects, I dabbled in JavaScript, Node.js, usually JavaScript client side as well. So hopefully I can be helpful to you today and give you some advice regarding your future careers.
Thank you for the Sir Eliba, for that wonderful introduction. We would like to ask questions regarding your career, role, and the other stuff that can help us in our future career.
Our first question, sir, is why did you pursue coding? Why are you interested in web developer career?
Um, when I was a kid, I usually like making things, solving problems. I'm interested in making toys and building anything. And so when I started college, um, computer science and information technology are the new courses back then. So that's what I took. Um, and also, I did not actually start as a web developer. In the early 2000s, wala pa masyadong web. So we're making Windows programs, DOS-based programs. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, and other server softwares that runs in just in the background. So there's not much UI back then. But as time changes, we have to adapt to learn new things. So like right now, web development, and not only that, pati mobile development as well. So yeah.
For the second question, sir, what is the job role of a web developer? In your own opinion, what are the most important aspects of web development jobs and why?
Well, these days, there are many roles. It's not just web developer. There's a back end developer, front end developer. There's also something you call DevOps, and then others like sa network, etc. So kapag back end, it means that you are responsible for the server side technology. That means yung back end coding. So the code that you're writing runs on the server. And then pag front end, you're responsible naman for the layout, the design. So it's not just coding, so HTML, JavaScript as well. So that means that code runs on the client. So sa PC natin, sa mobile, etc. Um, and then the other one, DevOps, sa operations yun. Sila yung nag-install ng deployment, responsible sila sa infrastructure. So there are many other roles, but those are the basic ones that are usually being used.
For our third question, how are your coding skills and how did you improve it? Can you please tell us which programming languages do you use or specific coding languages do you work with?
Well, in my case, I would say experience is the best teacher, as long as you're willing to learn. So you improve by practicing and especially understanding the purpose of what you're doing. So you have to really like in this career, you have to really like problem solving, and then along with that, that's where you're going to learn new things. So you will improve your programming skills. Um, and also, not every solution to a problem is the right one. So there are, convoluted solution. Some are simple. So you have to choose depending really on the problem. Um, so like in any other careers, you improve by doing the work. So regarding the programming language naman, well, I mentioned earlier, I usually work with Microsoft technology. So C Sharp, JavaScript, VB.NET, TSQL. Um, well, I'm not sure if you're familiar with React, Angular, and other client-side um, frameworks, but those are just still JavaScript and TypeScript. So if we're talking about programming languages. So yeah.
For our fourth question, sir, when you create a web page or web application, what is your workflow and process?
Well, first, we have to define the objective of the solution or the web application or web page. Um, so you have to determine what is the problem it's trying to solve, and then after that, that will guide you to design the flow of the application, and then you can now the next is lay out the steps on how to achieve each flow. That's on how you're going to solve the problem. um, and then in terms of actions, you start the graphics, the page layouts, the styles, the design of the UI, and then you start the backend coding. Actually, different roles yun, so different people usually do that. And then along with that, you design the database as well. Well, in other organization, those are three different parts, like the UI, the backend coding, and then database. But in other more simple organization, it's usually just one or two people, or maybe sometimes just one. And then after that, make sure that the all the items in your list are tested. Um, so testing must be done by not just the developer or the database designer or the UI designer. It must also be tested by the other stakeholders like the supervisor or the manager, or most especially the client of your application. So yeah, and then it's a cycle. So each step can be repeated as until you almost perfect or make the application production ready.
For the fifth question, sir, what is your time management approach during a web development cycle? How do you approach estimating how long specific web development tasks will take?
Well, usually in our case, well, we are given a specific task or item for example, for a project. And then for that item, we will evaluate that to see how long we can complete that, and that depends on the number of requirements or how long each requirement is. Um, so for example, change of spelling lang, then maikli lang yun. Or if it involves creating new tables, new UI, so that's going to be longer and might involve other people as well. If the task naman is about a bug or an issue or existing system that you need to investigate, so that's well, we call it open time task because hindi mo alam kung you're not sure if you're going to see the issue immediately or not. So sometimes it's like 1 hour, sometimes it's like 2 or 3 days. So yeah, it depends on the issue really.
So for our sixth question, sir, when you're building a website or online application, what user interface and security principles do you consider?
Well, so in terms of UI, um, um, most of the frameworks that we are using provides some validation that you can use. So, for example, if you have a field called name, so that must be populated before you save an item, or you save the um, you click save, or you click save click the save button. Um, so 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 usually you need to validate every data that you are going to submit to your server. Um, so also there is, authentication and authorization requirements. So that means if you log in, you have a certain role. So for that specific role, there are only things that you can do. Well, unless you're an administrator, you can do everything. But let's say you're just a regular user, you cannot do some other specific things on that website. So that so that's part of the security as well. And also some, the security that is not only, done in the UI, it's also done on the server side, to prevent um, different kind of attacks. So yeah, it starts with the UI, but also you need to put a lot of security measures on the server side.
For the seventh question, as a web developer, what steps do you take to improve your site and optimize your site's loading time?
Yeah, so the most basic um, optimization thing that, a web developer can do is data caching. So that means you will cache some data on the client. I'm not sure if you understand what that means yet, but um, so for example, log in. So the so you have access to, let's say, the first page, and then the second page also needs to be accessed by a logged in user. So you have to cache the login information of the current user. So that's one example of caching. And then another thing that you can do is called lazy loading. So that means when your web page loads, you do not load everything that it needs in one go. You should only load the other resources, for example, image or data, upon needed, upon request of the user, so that the loading time up front will be a lot faster. So there are other things, but those are the basic ones that we usually do.
For the eighth question, is there a time when you get stuck while coding, and how did you work your way through the problem?
Yes, a lot of times. I'm actually in one earlier. So, well, that's you should, the internet is your friend. Google is your friend. So you just Google for the solution. Usually, the problem that you have is already experienced by other developers. So yeah, the key is just not give up. You have to be persistent in solving the problem. And also, if you have some friends or colleagues that can help you, so yeah, you have to ask them.
For the ninth question po, is there a time that your program didn't run properly or have an error? And how did you troubleshoot your code?
Yeah, well, that will happen a lot during your career, even if no matter how much testing you do. So it can be caused by a bug that you wrote, or a misunderstanding in the requirements, or some input data that is caused by other systems or other people. So yeah, so the most important thing is, make sure that the code that you write is readable and easily understandable by others. Um, and also, technically, you should have logs, um, because if something happens, you can check the logs, um, so that you have, like an audit of what happened. Um, yeah. So another thing is, most of the time when there's an issue, it is from something that you do not write. For example, bago ka lang sa company. So yeah, that's the hard part. But you really have to be persistent. You can ask questions, search the internet for the solution.
For the last question, sir. What advice can you give to us for our future IT career or related courses and to those who wants to pursue this kind of career?
Yeah, well, you have to love learning new things, programming related at least. Um, well, when I graduated college, I only know different, the basic programming language that were taught to us. So we have back then Pascal, C, C++. Well, some Java as well. Um, but when I started my first job, they asked me to code in ASP. Well, right now it's ASP.NET, but back then it's just ASP. And the programming language is BB. So, well, I do not have that much experience in BB, so I have to learn on the fly. So the same then sa next job, like C Sharp, JavaScript as well, um, some Oracle, the programming language used for Oracle. So you have to really love to learn new things, and and you have to find the joy in learning new stuff and problem solving. Lalo ngayon, in the world of programming, nothing stays the same. For example, C sharp, it's there's always a new version in like every 2 or 3 years. So so you have to, well, choose what to learn, and enjoy the process of learning. So if you don't like that, then it's hard to survive in this career. So yeah, so yun yung advice ko. So you have to love to learn new programming things, not necessarily languages, something new in for example C sharp or JavaScript or VB, or in um, Java, for example. So yeah, so for example, kagaya nung dati, we're not doing web development, so I learned how to do the web development as fast as I can. And right now as well, mobile development. So you have to adapt, and to do that, you have to love to learn new things. So yun yung advice ko sa inyo.
Thank you, sir. We really enjoyed learning more about this role, and thank you for sharing your experience with us and giving us, us giving us advice for our future. And again, Sir Aliva, thank you for allowing us to interview and taking your time to meet with us today. And once again, we are the Error Makers, and thank you for watching and listening.
Thank you for the opportunity, and you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you
Welcome.
po,
Thank you
sir.
po.
Thank you po.